You ready? Ready? I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 6th, 2017 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. If everyone could join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone. Bigger attendance than usual, but welcome. Good to see everybody. I'm Jeff Benton, President of the Board. To my left is Gary Merrill, our Vice President. To my right is fellow Commissioner Barb Lewis, County Administrator for Zonomed. And our clerk today is Jennifer Walraven. So we can begin.
Resolution number 17-324, in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held April 3rd, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-324. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We do not have any public comment or elected official comment today. That brings us to item number 4, resolution number 17-325, in the matter of approving purchase orders and announced certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 0405.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-325. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill? Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-326, in the matter of approving travel expense request.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-326. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-327, in the matter of amending dollar amounts for the procurement card for the Common Pleas Court.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-327. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-328, in the matter of correcting a scrivener's error in resolution number 15-1142 and 17-174.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-328. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-329, in the matter of the Board of Delaware County Commissioners declaring the week of April 2nd National Crime Victims' Rights Week in Delaware County.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. The prosecutor, we welcome the prosecutor to the podium.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is National Crime Victims Week. It began on April 2nd. It goes through April 8th. Put those down for right now. I'd like to point out a number of facts for the folks who are here in the audience today and those who will be listening to this later. Our office has a dedicated group of 3 folks who work with crime victims. Last year, we increased and reached out, touched the largest number of victims we have ever. We had over 2,000 victims that had contact with our office in 1 year. These are victims of assaults, robberies, thefts, sexual assaults. They're victims of people who are addicted to crime when they come in and break in their homes. They are store owners, they are citizens, they are children, they are grandparents, and everyone in between. We are currently seeing an epidemic because of our opioid crisis, but those are not the only victims, and for a while I think we get a little caught up in the opioids and the heroin issue, and we need to look at all the other victims that are out there. Now, Commissioner Benton, Commissioner Merrill, County Administrator Ahmed, we have an opportunity for you.
Different than prior years, or is there
Pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. On May 5th is the annual Walk a Mile. It is a national event.
That's where you were headed.
Yeah, we have some really nice shoes for you guys this year, and I'll pull them out in a minute. This is our 9th annual Walk a Mile in her shoes. The focus has changed from sexualized violence against women, trying to raise awareness about those victims, to sexualized violence against any and all people who are the victims of those crimes. Because what we have found is 1 in 4 women will be the victim of a sexual assault. 1 in 6 men or boys are the victims or have been the victims of sexual assault. So it knows no gender difference, it knows no economic difference, and it knows no class difference. So,
There we go.
what's your favorite color, President Benton?
Green like the Masters. You have green?
You know, I don't think we have time to really become comfortable being.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Sooner red.
Sooner red. You want the sooner red?
Well, that's
I'll
not
take
red.
that door B.
That's not red.
That's not red?
That's,
It's more pink, I guess. Coral?
why do you ask? You're going to give us what's in that anyway. Oh, those are beautiful. Pink or purple?
You know, I like to pick something I haven't had.
He's K-State, they're purple, so I see that's...
It's a little small.
To have the buy-in from the commissioners.
Really pretty shoe.
I know in the past Commissioner Merrill has had some excuse about a knee or an ankle or something. Though I'm pretty sure I have seen you there.
You have, I've all around my neck when you're
Yes.
around my feet.
Yes. It has become a huge event. It's run in conjunction with First Friday. So how many people did we have there last year? It was for the actual event. How many? Hundreds. Yeah, there were an amazing number. We have good buy-in from the law enforcement, from the fire folks, and just people who come out in the churches, the faith-based community come out. Love to see you. Commissioner Lewis, we're not leaving you out. We'd love to see Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
We'll have a pair of shoes for
I
him.
do have a few shoes that, yeah, right, that I could wear.
You can borrow mine.
Can I make a point? Are you aware that we do have 2 legs?
I have the other one in there. Those, I'm not sure these will fit, but if these don't fit, we have others that we'll be more than happy to share with you. And please spread the word, everyone. Don't get that smile. You've walked. Yes, yes. Fred, I don't know if I've seen you there. You can come walk in support. But it's just a fun event. It's a fun way to get people thinking about a very difficult cause that people don't want to. So we would love to see you there. I will confess I will not be there this year. I'll be on my way to Italy. So for those of you who are going to be there, thank you in advance. And I'm very good at pigeonholing people and getting people there. I love the way the guys are going, not me. So thank you for giving us the time to discuss this, and we'll give you the other half of the shoes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prosecutor
Yeah,
O'Brien.
thank
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, Merrill, any comments?
I have no
Yeah, I
comments. I have participated in the past. It's a great event. I don't know if you walk in the same path you walked in the past down towards Old Wood and back. And but there's, I think several hundred walked one year that I was able
Oh,
to walk.
yes,
so.
I've seen, yes, maybe even thousands. I mean, there were a lot of people when I walked. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you bring, fun attention to a very serious cause, and again, focus on the cause and working on those
I
issues.
do have one comment. Since you're going to be in Italy, Jeff and I do like Italian shoes. Maybe you can Italian shoes while you're over there.
Sure. I plan on buying a few pairs. So leather, cloth, do you have a choice color? You want red, you want green.
Golf shoes.
Golf shoes. I don't know if they're known for that in Italy, but we can work for it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Vote?
For a vote on that?
Yep.
Vote on motion 17-329. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 17-333, in the matter of approving new funds, new organizational keys, and supplemental appropriations, and a transfer of funds for the Board of Developmental Disabilities.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners Lewis, Benton, Mr. Merrill, Ms. Walraven, and Mr. Ahmed. Appreciate having the chance to talk with you today. Before you is a motion to approve new funds, new organizational keys, and supplemental appropriations for the DD Board. What we're looking to do is to establish funds that help us safeguard finances in the future. We're looking at funds for a Medicaid reserve account, and we're looking also to set aside money for capital improvements. And we're looking to set aside money as well for severance pay and those sorts of things. So we're looking at long-term obligations at the county board, and by creating reserve funds outside of our operational budget, we can secure our future. The Medicaid fund, I think, is the most complex one to understand. So we have two ways of serving people at the DD board. One is directly through levy funds. We pay 100% of services. Okay. The second is if we leverage waivers, which is a Medicaid funding source, we can put services in the community and only pay 40%. So that's a good way to put services in the community, but in order to make sure we always meet that obligation, we would like to put the amount of money that's equal to about 1 year's Medicaid match in a reserve account. So in the case there's any type of catastrophe or lack of funding, we are able to continue to provide those services. So this is very common across the state and county boards. I realize in Delaware County we have not done that before, but it would really help us with our future planning to be able to set up these types of accounts. It also adds a level of transparency. When you see our budget, and for the year operationally, it's approximately $21 million. Business manager Jared Zerrella. So when we look at that, we operate on that $21 million every year. But we do have other funds. We want to make sure they're earmarked specifically. So when people see, well, we have X amount of money, and this is how we are very clearly able to explain the need and the use of those additional funds. As you well know, we have a rather large building that is not completely renovated. So there's going to be a time in the near future we will need to renovate it. We have a roof that is needing immediate replacement. I would say within the next 6 to 9 months we need to replace that roof, which could cost us up to $500,000. By setting aside these funds, that will assure the ability that we are operating very fiscally conservatively and planfully. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to entertain them.
I think it gives more transparency, too. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Plus, making sure the money's there. And then when you've got the federal 60 and then you're 40, so that works.
Just to clarify what I think everybody understands and knows, this is not an increase in the levy or anything else. It's just simply putting the money in the proper place so it can be identified. And
Exactly. We want to have our operational budget, and and that's year to year, and then we have what some people call carryover funds, and people always say, well, what do you do with that? And why is that so important? And we want to be able to say we have to secure the future for services for people. That is very, very important. And there's lots of reasons why, this could be at risk, but by setting up this fund, we guarantee that we're able to provide those services for people. There's over 830 people in our county right now that are on Medicaid waivers that we pay 40% for. And so that's about, I'd say approximately $5 million of our budget. And then, we have $5 million we put into direct services that are not waiver funded.
I think I checked. I think you had, if I saw the fund correctly, you had about 14+ million at the end of the year.
Yes.
So effectively what you're doing is carving out some of that and moving it into these special funds.
Correct. And then we can very clearly and transparently explain why that is needed. We did, of course we have, we didn't carve out all of it because we always need the first 3 months of operating expense in our budget due to levy collections and those sorts of things. But by doing it this way, we're able to clearly explain, and in that event, we've got it.
Okay. Questions?
No, thank you.
All right, vote.
Vote on motion 17-333. Mr. Merrill? Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 17 dash,
Oh, excuse me, one second.
okay.
Prosecutor wanted to get a picture with the shoes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, should it just be you two with your shoes? No. Or I should be in it, but I'll,
Yes,
Well-
it should be in it.
I can,
I'll give you a shoe.
I was going to say, you can use one.
there we go.
Tricia and Megan, would you guys like shoes? Perfect, everybody hold them up.
Okay.
Over here, Tricia, Tricia. My turn.
Oh, we have to take one.
Okay. Everybody over here, and 2, 1, and we'll do it again. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you. And we have, here, actually, here, fill that, I'll take it.
I think Jared wants to join. Yeah. You wrote it down? I think he's going to join.
That's it? You have the resolution, Jen? The actual resolution?
I'll send it to you after you're done. You guys weren't here yesterday, so it's not signed.
We'll get it. Okay.
Resolution number 17-334, in the matter of approving a contract between the Delaware County Board of Commissioners and Tool and Associates for building officials, plan review, and inspection services.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Good morning. Fred Fowler with Code Compliance. The primary purpose for this agreement is for inspection services. Even though Tool offers plan review and also building official services, we have a need now for backup building inspections, primarily on the electrical side because of a recent retirement with one of our electrical inspectors. So this agreement will help us maintain our turnaround time on inspections, providing that service to our customers. And it will only be on an as-needed basis. When we can keep up with the workload with the staff we have, we will do that, but we will have somebody to call upon to fill that void that we will have while we're trying to fill the vacancy of our permanent employee. So
How have inspections been so far this year versus last year?
they're up quite a bit.
Okay, that's what I figured.
It's very busy. Permits are up. The mild winter has allowed people to move forward a little bit earlier this year, so it's been a little bit more steady. We're not seeing that spike this month that we usually see, but it has been a busy first quarter, and it's going to be a busy year.
Have we used this firm before?
Pardon?
Have we used this firm before?
We have not used that firm. We have a history with a couple of their employees that we have used in the past, but not with this firm. So we have a good working relationship with a plans examiner of theirs and also one of their electrical inspectors, who, if approved, will be assigned to Delaware County. So that's a nice thing that he already has an understanding of our process and the county.
Yeah, I think, again, using contracts like this to provide peak demand coverage, I think is again, a good idea, so commend you for taking the initiative.
Thank you, and it's definitely needed and will be from time to time, but our hope is to fill that with a permanent employee and just have this as a backup is what it is.
Great.
All right, vote?
Vote on motion 17-334, Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Resolution number 17-335, in the matter of establishing a new organizational key and approving supplemental appropriations for the Delaware County Emergency Management Agency.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Miller, Director, Delaware County Emergency Management. This grant is for hazardous materials emergency preparedness, and the primary audience is firefighters And so the idea behind it is to provide training for area fire departments for response to hazardous materials incidents on roadways. And the idea behind it is the courses that have been determined to be most beneficial for the local hazmat team is a methodology in hazmat response that really focuses on meters, pH paper, things of that nature to determine if it is safe for a first responder to go into an area that may be contaminated with some sort of chemical and perform a rescue for victims in that particular incident. And so on Tuesday, the Emergency Management Executive Committee authorized me, if appropriated, to spend the money for the grant. This particular grant is an 80% federal grant with a 20% local match. And the local match would either come from the hazardous materials team, or in the past we have also charged individual departments that send students. So regardless, emergency management would in the end have no out-of-pocket expense with this. We would merely be the pass-through. And so with that, I would be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
We've done this in the past.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A continuing opportunity to help training.
Absolutely.
No, thank you.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 17-335. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
One thing, Sean,
Commissioner.
could you just go over the new funding that you put into effect that the board has already approved? Because I know notices were sent out to the various townships, and we've gotten some questions on it, and that would be great just to clarify the changes.
I'd be happy to do that, and I would also be happy to have individual conversations with each of you. I think that would be appropriate as your schedules permit. But essentially what we're looking at is a change to the emergency management agreement for Delaware County. And since 1989, as part of that agreement, the per capita amounts have been 40 cents for townships, cities, villages, and 20 cents have been for the commissioners. Now, this takes out, it does not account for Columbus, Dublin, and Westerville, those annexed areas. They're covered by Franklin County Emergency Management. So our coverage area is the same as Delaware County Emergency Communications. So Columbus, Dublin, and Westerville are not part of our agreement. But the update would do away, if approved, with the per capita amounts, which have been very rigid, and again have not been changed since 1989 when they were implemented, and it would go to a population percentage model. And so as part of this proposed agreement, it would carry on with the commissioners paying 1/3 of the overall amount. So previously they had paid 20 cents out of the 60. So we've kept that ratio there. And then the jurisdictions would pay 2/3. So the cities, townships, and villages would pay the remaining 2/3. So the way it would work, again, if approved, would be that the EMA Executive Committee would meet every year for a budget meeting, as we have done, and they would work with the Emergency Management Director to determine what the need is for local funding. And theoretically speaking, if they determined that the need for local funding was, say, $150,000, then the commissioners would pay 1/3 of that, so $50,000, and then the remaining jurisdictions, cities, townships, villages, would pay that remaining 2/3 based off of their population's overall percentage of our coverage area. So then, say, if a township had 1% of the overall population, then they would pay 1% of that remaining amount, or $1,000 in this particular hypothetical. And it would still also require the commissioners to appropriate our budget as has been done in the past as well. So there are two checks and balances built in with that, but the desired outcome is simply more flexibility in local funding, still having the approval process in place with the executive committee and the commissioners appropriating it, but simply giving us more flexibility in our local funding and trying to be able to keep pace with the growth of Delaware County. And we have, I should say, been very good at capitalizing on federal grants as much as possible, and I've gone out and spoken to several townships about this now. Thompson Township last night, Liberty Township the other night, and
I know you did Genoa, too.
yes, that is coming up as well.
Genoa.
And Powell next week. So getting out there and educating the jurisdictions on this. But the main operating grant that we utilize, the Emergency Management Performance Grant, has been somewhat reduced for us. I think this past year we had maybe a 3% reduction, and at the federal level right now, they're talking about a nationwide reduction of 20%. So we're not in a crisis mode for our budget now, but we are looking toward the future to make sure that we don't get to that point where we've had a lot of very good discussions with our executive committee. Commissioner Lewis has been a big part of those, and looking at what the needs really are for Delaware County Emergency Management, identifying threats and risks, and certainly our funding was identified as one of the top threats to the office. And so, again, this would be a little bit more flexibility for us. I don't want to take up too much time for the agenda, but I would like to follow up with you individually to answer any questions you might have and brief you a little bit more on it. So I'd be happy to take any questions now, or I can follow up later on.
Whatever you...
I would, maybe we could follow up later on and have a more detailed conversation, because I'd like to learn more.
Terrific.
Now, will this ultimately come back to us as a resolution, or is this something that the Board of EMA decides and it's...
That's a great question. Ultimately, what it would take would be a majority of the participating jurisdictions to adopt the agreement by formal resolution.
And if the majority adopts, then all are required to participate?
It would go into effect then.
Okay. I just want to make a comment. We have a lot of people come and speak. You're certainly in the top 10% of people. You're very clear in how you explain things, and it's very easy to follow that.
No, thank you for that.
I just want to compliment you for that. And you take your time to very slowly, clearly define the issues, and it's very helpful.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'll reach out to the three of you, and Frazan, Director, you're just complimenting me on my speaking, and now I can't speak at all. So, County Administrator Ahmed, I will follow up with the three of you in the near future. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. I kind of put him on the spot, too. He didn't always...
Well, that was part of the I thought, but he did an excellent job.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
He is. It's a good point.
We voted.
Yes, you voted.
Okay.
So we're on to item number 12.
right.
Resolution number 17-336, in the matter of approving a permit for the use of Delaware County facilities.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jane Wells, Communications Manager. We have before you a request for a facilities permit that we just received. This is for an event on April 29th, a Saturday. It'll be a 1-hour rally on the front lawn of the courthouse by the Citizens Climate Lobby, which appeared before you, I think it was last week. So they've already submitted a check to pay the fee for the hour because this falls on a weekend. So if you have any questions,
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-336, Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Resolution number 17-337, in the matter of approving renewal and acceptance of the 2017-2018 program costs between the County Risk Sharing Authority, CORSA, and the Delaware County Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Dawn Houston, Assistant County Administrator, and I also have with me Brian Smith, our local agent with SFM Insurance. This program renewal basically is approving the purchase order and voucher to Corsa for 2017-18. I am happy to say that the costs are less than 1% over the costs of last year, which is a good thing. We have done a great job, I think, and I say we, the other elected officials, staff, the directors, supervisors, and managers really come together when it comes to loss control and our participation in the loss control incentive program. there's, trainings, we have policies, we do driver's record checks, we inspect vehicles and buildings, to name a few, that brings money back to the county through that loss control incentive program. So between that and the member equity, we're getting a credit of $33,000. So it helps to provide awareness when it comes to risk and loss control. And I just really appreciate everyone's willingness to participate in the trainings, and especially with the sheriff and the driver simulator training that they did last year. I know that is something that is difficult for them to get their deputies through because of coverage and staffing, as well as our facilities area and our safety director. But we were able to receive 100% credit, so that's a great thing. And I think this is maybe our 6th year in a row that we've gotten 100% credit to our loss control program. Even with the renewal, we increased our liability coverage by $1 million, and we've also added, as you remember last year, the cybersecurity coverage as well, and enhanced that. So even with those enhancements and the enhancements that CORSA is providing counties as a whole that Brian will be speaking to, we're really fortunate that we didn't see a huge increase in our premium. So that said, do you want to talk about the enhancements for next year?
I will. Yes, again, I'm Brian Smith with SFM Insurance here in Delaware. I do want to echo Don's comments on how hard they work to save the county money with the loss control prevention program. Receiving 100% is something that not all counties achieve, so it really is something that they work hard at and are really trying to make a difference here. CORSA each year listens to its board, which is made up of county commissioners as well as its agents and constituents, to continuously enhance and improve the program. So in 2017, they did a couple of good things, in my opinion. One, they did provide a lot of information on the medical marijuana situation and the new laws that were passed with that and how to handle within the county handbooks. So information was provided there. And they've also given a lot of information and guidance on the new concealed carry issues and who's allowed and where they can store and keep concealed weapons. So in addition to that, on a coverage basis, they increased the sublimit for the mobile medical equipment coverage to $250,000 and made it a blanket limit. So now we don't have to schedule those items individually. They've also included theft of private information from paper files in our cybersecurity, in addition to those on the electronic side. We're seeing a tremendous amount of theft of old files from unlocked cabinets and stealing information, public or private information that way as well. They continue to work on the drone situation and how to handle that liability as those things fly up in the air and what they can do. So they've changed the way the registration and how we need, what the information we need in order to get those scheduled. To our knowledge, we don't believe Delaware County has any drones, but we're looking into that. And as we find those out, we will address them. In addition, they've enhanced their loss control program and have added $2,800 per county that you can apply toward psychological testing, polygraph examinations, and computerized voice stress analysis testing as a condition for employment in conjunction with the Ohio Collaborative Standard for Employee Recruitment and Hiring. So, again, trying to give you guys tools so that you can make good decisions and take care of your employees. I believe that's it.
The only other thing I would add is that I have been in communication with Auditor Kaitza and Steve Lewis in terms of the loss control incentive program for 2017-18 that will hopefully see 100% credit a year from now. But they're putting a lot of effort toward cybersecurity and awareness for employees, and we will be doing an online training. We'll have to have 85% of our employees complete in order to get credit in that portion of our loss control incentive program for next year. Because as you know, and I know Commissioner Benton, you were able to attend the CORSA renewal meeting, we've had some counties that have unfortunately been victim to hackers, and we just want to make sure everyone's aware and vigilant when it comes to internet and email use. So with that, I would recommend your approval of this resolution, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those for you.
This 337 is net the credit, I assume, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I did go to the CORSA renewal meeting. I'm not sure the exact title of the meeting, but it was very interesting, and CORSA does a nice job of staying out in front of the current issues, because the liability landscape is always changing, and the data security is probably our number one concern right now. Drones may be, medical marijuana may be, issues for the future, but and you're addressing those. But again, nice job. CORSA is very well run, very financially solid. So I think, again, everybody's doing a nice job. Any comments, questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for your work.
Vote on motion 17-337. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-338, in the matter of approving the 2017 Local Agricultural Easement Purchase Program Cooperative Agreement between the Ohio Department of Agriculture and the Delaware County Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Morning, Scott Stevens, Administrator, Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District. Would ask approval of the agreement. It's been reviewed by your council, and essentially the same agreement as a previous year. Happy to answer any questions.
Oh, no questions.
Yeah, again, you've filled us in, I think, individually earlier on the results of the program last year and what you're expecting to do this year. So, again, it seems to be working, and
Indeed.
so, yeah, keep the communication going.
I do. Just to restate the concern that I've had in the past, and I'm fully supportive of the concept, but
Yes.
protecting landowners who are not part of the program as far as being able to access their property, it still remains a concern that
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
I know you and I are going to have another conversation about, but until that concern goes away, I will be reticent about supporting some of these particular.
Yes, that is still an issue that we need to finalize with ODA for the 2016 funding round, and that issue will carry forward into 2017. We're several months from the title review and so forth for the 2016 funding round, being at the point where we would be in a position to need to move forward. So we have some time to continue to work with the state, with your council, as well as the county engineer staff have been working on that. So I think the language has been agreeable. It's a matter of how it's documented, or where it resides within the easement, or a separate MOU or so forth. So I think we'll get there.
Okay, yeah, and I share the same concern as Commissioner Ross.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll take a vote.
Vote on motion 17-338. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thanks, Scott.
That brings us to our public hearing. Did we need to recess? Are you ready to start now? We have lots of people on the other side.
It's going to take a few minutes.
Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute recess?
Yeah.
And we'll get started.